The Zylosian hegemony did not wage war with fire or steel, they waged it with harmony. Their resonance cannons hummed at frequencies that turned solid granite into fine silt and crystalline life forms into sparkling dust. To the Zylosians, the universe was a grand symphony, and any species that did not vibrate in tune with their glorious mandate was merely noise to be silenced. When they arrived at the human colony of New Hope, the Zylosian High Cantor laughed. Their scans showed soft, carbon-based organisms, creatures of liquid and porous bone. "They are nothing but damp clay," the Cantor broadcasted through the subspace channels. "A gentle vibration will unmake them." The siege began at dawn. The Zylosian song singers deployed their sonic arrays, sending out a rhythmic, beautiful pulse that shattered the human defense turrets and turned the landing pads to sand. The human soldiers, encased in standard-issue ceramic plating, collapsed as their armor vibrated into deadly shrapnel. It was a massacre of geometry and grace. Captain Elias Thorne crouched in a trench, his ears bleeding, his vision swimming. The world was a kaleidoscope of agonizing sound. He watched a squad of Zylosian warriors glide past, their bodies translucent and shimmering, moving in perfect rhythmic unison. They were beautiful, and they were seemingly invincible. "They're looking for a resonance," Elias hissed to his sergeant, whose teeth were rattling in his skull. "They think we're all the same frequency. They think we're like their world, rigid and predictable." "What do we do, Cap?" a sergeant gasped, clutching a bleeding side. "Everything's breaking. Our tech, our bones, everything." Elias looked at the heavy, old-fashioned crates in the corner of the bunker. They were relics from the dark age of kineticism, kept for training but never used in a real war because they were considered uncivilized by the modern interstellar community. They were heavy steel shells, black, smokeless powder, raw, unrefined lead. "They're fighting a symphony," Elias said, a grim, bloody smile splitting his face. "Let's give them some noise." He signaled the survivors. They didn't reach for the high-frequency pulse rifles or the energy shields that had failed them. They grabbed the kinetic slugs and the heavy-barreled primitive revolvers. The Zylosians advanced, their song singers reaching a crescendo that should have turned the human defenders into soup. But the humans didn't shatter. They were too soft, too fluid. Their bodies absorbed the vibrations, bruised and battered, but stubbornly intact. Then, the first shot rang out. It wasn't a hum or a chime. It was a violent, discordant crack. The lead slug tore through a Zylosian warrior's chest. The slug didn't just pierce, it sent a shockwave of pure, chaotic kinetic energy through the warrior's translucent form. Unlike a sonic pulse that vibrated everything in unison, the bullet was a singular, irregular point of destruction. The Zylosian's internal rhythm was thrown into a violent, unrecoverable stutter. "More!" Elias roared, his voice lost in the thunder of a heavy machine gun. "Don't give them a melody, give them the riot!" The humans unleashed a storm of lead. The sound was a jagged, ugly, and beautiful cacophony. There was no rhythm for the Zylosians to follow, no crescendo to anticipate. Their sonic shields, perfected for deflecting harmonic frequencies, were useless against the erratic, tumbling projectiles of heavy metal. When a human grenade detonated near a singer, the chemical explosion sent a blast of white noise and shrapnel through the ranks, shattering their shimmering lines. The hegemony's formation broke. Without the rhythm, the Zylosians were lost, their very biology struggling to process the sudden, violent dissonance. They were no longer masters of the symphony, they were drowning in a riot. As the Zylosian ships retreated, their elegant patterns breaking into frantic, disorganized pulses, Elias stood among the smoldering ruins. His breathing was ragged, his skin coated in soot and blood. He looked at the heavy, ugly steel weapon in his hand, then at the survivors pulling themselves from the rubble. They were bruised and broken, but they were still standing. The universe might be a grand symphony, he thought, wiping the grime from his eyes, but sometimes you just have to break the song.